Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name is Pramod Pandey. I'm your faculty for this law paper and this IFRS summary course. In this class, we will talk about something which is coming from the consolidation portion. SBR consolidation has a huge weightage. That topic has so many standards covered there. IFRS 3 is there, IFRS 10 is there, and some other. So in this lecture, we will talk about the main standard, the business combination, which does mean you can only be consolidated the financial statement when it is meeting as a business combination definition according to the IFRS 3. So in this lecture, we will talk about the business combination, something about the goodwill, something about the group auditing or auditing standards, and something more. So these are all the things that you need to know. In order to begin with the same, I just wanted to present you the story. The story will give you the loophole, and then we'll talk about the rules which you need to know. And then we'll move ahead and then see what are the other topic areas that you need to know. Again, this standard will not be very much testing in an exam, but what you can expect from this standard is having a basic knowledge. So I think that could help you somewhere or other. So story is that when one company acquire another company, it must record the transaction as a business combination under the IFRS 3. But business combination is a definition. The record of a transaction can only be meeting business combination when it would be having some other characteristic which are being listed there. Okay. This is standard which IFRS 3 ensure that all assets and liability of the acquired entity subsidiary are recorded their fair value at the acquisition date, and the difference between the purchase consideration, whatever the purchase consideration you're paying because you're buying it, and the fair value of identifiable net assets is recognized as in goodwill. The goal is to show the true economical value of acquisition and maintain transparency in the reporting. So what does it mean? This IFRS standard, which is IFRS 3, will be talking about the business combination. Now, what is a business combination? When one company acquire another company, that transition is recorded as a business combination under the IFRS 3. But it should be meeting some of the characteristic to be called as a business combination according to the IFRS 3. Now, whenever there's a transaction which is being taken place, and when one company is buying another company, so whatever the price, price consideration that they're paying, the one who is buying will obviously paying, right? So the one who is buying will pay the seller or the company to the shareholders, from whom they are buying the price consideration, and whatever they are paying excess of identifiable net asset is going to be recognized as a goodwill. This transaction all takes place just to show what is the true economical value of the acquisition and to maintain the transparency in the reporting. Right now, we will learn about the definition recognition. The characteristics are very vocal about are normally listed here. A business combination occur when acquire obtain control of one or more business. Right, control is usually obtained through the acquisition acquiring more than 50%. This is what the normal norms. It could possible that your percentage are less than 50% and still you're having a control on one or more business. This could only be possible when you have a high influence over the BOD. But that is very rare chances that you would be having, or they could be in terms and agreement. But normally it is deemed that whenever you'd be having a more than 50% of any company, in that case you will be having the control of that company, and you are going to known as the parent of that company, and that would known as in the business combination. Right, done. It could possible that less than 50%, still that could possible that you're owning that company, having a control, but that comes through the agreement, through the contractual right. So control is usually obtained through the acquiring more than 50% of the voting right. It is saying usually, but can also exist through the other arrangement that gives the powers to direct the relevant activities. If this is there, or either through the contractual agreement, or either through the owning more than 50%, in both of the cases, it would mean as a business combination. The purchase consideration is basically nothing but the transfer what you're paying in exchange of buying the rights. The purchase consideration transfer and identifiable net asset acquired are both measured at the fair value on acquisition date. Now, the acquisition date is basically the date at which you're buying the company. Okay. Now, what are the treatment that you need to take care of? Now, purchase consideration. Now, purchase consideration means the money you're going to pay is going to be measured at the fair value. It will be including your deferred cash consideration. Suppose if you're making an agreement or arrangement that I would be paying you after 1 and 2 years, that is what in deferred consideration. In this case, the future value transaction would be coming. So those future value transactions should be discounted, and the present value that would be there, it should be recorded. So discounted to the present value using the acquired borrowing rate. share-based consideration. Sometimes you're offering your company share in exchange of the consideration, in exchange of buying that company. So in that case, meaning you're going to measure the market price at the acquisition date. So that market price of the share value will become the consideration you're paying per share, right? And then contingent consideration. This is more of having some sort of an dependency, contingent consideration. It is going to be include the fair value even if the payment is not possible. If the condition are going to fulfill, in that case, the contingent payment is going to take place. Otherwise, it will not be. But still, that need to be measured at the fair value. Now, the second point that comes is a non-controlling interest. So suppose the other company is 100% and you're buying 80%, you're buying 70%, you're buying 60%. So what you are not buying 20%, 30%, 40% becomes your non-controlling interest. So at acquisition, non-controlling interest measure either using a fair value method or second is in proportionate share of the net asset. These are the two formulas which are given. But again, just to remember yourself that it would be good if you remember the formula, but or the methods through which the non-controlling interest could be tested, but in a paper you will not be asked to calculate something like that. Now the goodwill calculation is basically like this. Goodwill is going to equal to consideration transfer plus whatever the NCA contribution less whatever the fair value of the asset occur. Because ultimately, suppose you have brought 8%, 80% of the company. So you're paying the consideration for 80%, 20% is going to be value, and then you are removing, this becomes your 100%. From the 100% of the value of the company, you are removing the net asset value, and whatever left will become the goodwill. Okay, so you are paying for the two things. As a buyer, you are paying for the two things, the net asset and plus the goodwill. Okay. Now there are the two things that comes. Positive goodwill, it is going to be recognized as an intangible asset, and this need to be tested annually for the impairment, something we have been very vocal of from the last standard. And negative goodwill is basically the gain on the bargain purchase, which is recognized immediately in the profit and loss after reassessing calculation. So first, if there would be any negative goodwill means you have paid less than even the value of what ever the net asset would be there. So suppose you're paying 100 rupees and your net assets are only of 120, right? So you're not paying for the goodwill. Actually, you're paying something less, even lesser than the what is the value of the net asset. So in that case, that would be negative goodwill, and this is known as a bargain purchase. This, whatever the gain you're having, suppose you're getting the asset for 120 rupees and you're paying 100 rupees. So whatever gain you're getting for 20 rupees, because ultimately you have to book the net asset at the fair value. So fair value of the asset would be 120. You will be booking the net asset in the at the fair value and in your books at 120 rupees. Okay, and you're paying 100. So what extra 220 rupees is basically your gain, and that is also going to be booked, right? And that is going to be into profit and loss directly done. Suppose if P acquire 100% of his company for 1.8 million, in that case, there's no NCA because we are buying 100%. Fair value of his company net asset comes this much. So your goodwill would have been this difference. Suppose in this example only, if I just would like to change something. Suppose in this example, if the paid consideration would have been not this 1.2, in that case, it would have been minus 0.3, and this would become your profit. Okay, but still you have to take your calculation once again before calling this as a profit and booking this into the financial statement. Done. Now, the fourth point, that is about post-acquisition adjustment. So whatever the transaction you're having after acquiring the company, that need to be gone, and that would be affecting your financial statement, the buyer financial statement, and that will be affecting your NCI, non-controlling interest, right? So suppose XYZ is a company which has been owned by ABC first. After a year, this has been sold to CBD for 70% and 30% is still holding back. So after the date of the acquisition, 70% of all the transaction of the profit is going to be hit your CBD and 30% is going to hit your ABC. Is it clear? So whatever the transactions which are happening after the date of acquisition will be known as a post-acquisition adjustment. Adjustment must eliminate intra-group transaction and unrealized profit to present the group as one economical entity. That is very accurate. Suppose if you're buying a company which will become the part of the subsidy or which will become the part of the group, if that company was before your supplier and you were having some transaction, so whatever the whatever the transaction between parent company and that subsidy company which has recently acquired, whatever the intergroup transaction has been there, those need to be cancelled out, because ultimately once it has been acquired, it will become the part of the group, and it would not be appropriate if you're making consolidated and then showing the intergroup transaction. That would be misleading and that would not be appropriate, right? So whatever the intergroup and sale and purchases which are out there need to be removed. So these are the transactions which are going to removed, and these are going to be adjusted when you're doing the consolidated financial statement. It could possible it could possible that individual separate financial statement, when they're getting prepared, both can include whatever the transaction between both of them are happening. Parent can include whatever the receivables, payables are there, and subsidy can do so. But when they're making whenever the parent company is making the consolidation, because ultimately the consolidation is responsibility of the parent company. Whenever the parent company is making the consolidated financial statement, they have to remove the intergroup transactions, right? So whatever the intergroup sales and purchases are there, those need to be removed. Then again, whatever the unrealized profit which is there on the inventory or the non-current asset has to be removed. Suppose the parent company has sold as company inventory, and the inventory was sold for 1000. For 1000 unit of the inventory has been sold between P to S. Now S has sold 500 unit of inventory, but 500 unit are still there, and they are recorded at the cost which the P had taken from S. So those 500 would be including some sort of an unrealized profit which has not been sold to other company by S company. So that's why there would be any unrealized profit that need to be removed. So whatever the intergroup receivables, payable, loans need to be removed. The last point has been taken here. Whatever the intergroup interest and management charges are there, those also need to be removed. Okay. Done. Because ultimately, whatever the adjustment are there must eliminate the intergroup transaction and unrealized profit to present the group as a single entity. And those will be including the 4 point. By the time you're here, what I'm thinking that you have understood the main concept of the area, what this IFRS 3 is and what they're talking about, what does consolidation mean, and when we're doing this consolidation accounting. If we are taking a place or making this consolidation possible, if we're going to buy this business combination, so what are the certain things that need to be taken care about? All things are going to be discussed now. Now we'll talk about what are the disclosure requirements are there. IFRS 3 require extensive disclosures, okay, for all the material business combination to help the user evaluate. Okay, so each and every disclosure which is required by the IFRS 3 need to be there so that the users can know about the fact which are there as in material. Okay, what this would be including, they would be including the nature, the financial effect of the acquisition, if we are acquiring, and what it would be having a financial effect of the nature, that also need to be disclosed, right? Detail of goodwill or bargain purchase. If you are getting a bargain on purchase or bargain purchase, that need to be shown. That need to be shown as in part of the disclosure. If you do have goodwill, acquired goodwill, in that case, that also need to be shown, right? Whatever the consideration you have paid or NCA measurement basis. Okay, how the NCA is going to be calculated? There's the two methods, right? One or two. So how the NCA is going to be measured? This all things need to be taken care about. And if there would be any contingent liability that company has to pay to the supplier or to the seller to whom they are buying from. Okay. So there's a risk of material misstatement if this disclosure are incomplete. So it could be possible that there's a business combination which is taking place, the disclosure are inappropriate. The disclosures are incomplete. And this is one of the reasons that could be there across all AAA paper. Any standard which is out there has a disclosure requirement. This is very common thing across each and everything, which is whatever the standard you've been through and whatever you're going afterward this. So disclosure requirement would be there. Suppose if there's a standard which is me applicable and disclosure has not been provided by the management for that, in that case, that becomes the ticker point and you have to look after that. Okay. So it could be possible that material misstatement could be there if there would be any disclosure which is mandatory or has not been there. Okay, so whatever the material transaction which is happening between the parent and subsidiary company in accordance with IFRS 3, those also need to be given. Done. Now we'll talk about what are the certain things that could go wrong in a AAA paper. Ultimately, just to cover on, just to brainstorm yourself, right? It could be possible goodwill might be overestimated, right? You haven't done testing of the impairment annually, because ultimately you have to test the impairment for the goodwill annually, even though there is a hint or not, right? It could be possible for the fair value measurement. Whenever you're buying a company, you have to bring the assets and liability of that company at the fair value. So your fair value transaction, when you're taking the fair value or when you're calculating the fair value, could have been gone wrong. So errors in valuing assets, liability, or contingent consideration, right? Misclassification of the acquisition. What are you doing? What are you doing? Suppose you're buying a business combination. You're buying a business combination and you're recording it as an asset. So it could be a wrong thing. And what if you're buying an asset and you're recording as a business combination? You're counting, you're buying a machinery. You suppose there's a company. The company is a dummy company, but it owns 100 properties. So ultimately, whatever you're paying is equivalent to the 100 companies, 100 properties. So in that case, you're buying the asset. You're buying the 100 properties. You're not buying the company because company is not there. Company is just there to manage this. So certain other things also we need to be taken care. So if you're buying a business combination, it should be accounted as a business combination. If you're buying an asset, it should not be accounted as a business combination and vice versa. If that is going to happen in that case, you have to take out the management and you have to point it out and then have to discuss it with the management, right? That incomplete disclosure. Again, this could be there in each and every requirement. So whenever you have a AAA paper, this is one of the tip that I wanted to give you. Whenever there is an accounting standard which is being used there, you always have to point it out whether the disclosure has been given or not. Across the paper, you can just give 3, 4, 5 points for this, whether the disclosure has been given appropriately or not, right? So missing key information about the acquisition or the goodwill movement. And it could be that if there's an NCI measurement, how it should be done. If they're going some other way around, right? Which is not there as an NCI measurement. So these are the certain things which are there. Done? Now, so when you are buying a company from the acquisition date, you have been given 12 months to value or to bring the net assets of that company to the fair value. You have been given 12 months. So it would have been possible that those 12 months, you have not taken the fair value. You're taking the fair value which is coming after 12 months. So that is a wrong accounting treatment, right? According to your SBI knowledge. So these are the point which could also be tested, right? This accounting standard would not be majorly tested, but there will be something other. So once you have been through this video, what I'm thinking that you have prepared enough yourself that if there would be anything, you would be in a position to answer this question, right? Then there are certain audit implications are there, like review the acquisition agreement to verify the acquisition date and component. Some audit procedures which are out there, just go through them. If I just would like to present you a summary, IFRS 3 will ensure that business combination reflect the economical reality through the fair value measurement and transparent disclosure. For AAA student, focus on understanding how the business combination goodwill calculation is there. It could be possible that they're buying a company and they're calculating the goodwill wrong way around. So it could be an audit risk for you, right? And recognize disclosure risks and audit implication. Identifying what could go wrong in the value and presentation. It could be possible that company, in the very first question, the company is planning to do the acquisition. They planning to buy a company. They are planning to buy a company. Now, suppose they are buying a dummy company which is managed 100 properties. The same example. So in this case, this should have been treated as an asset because this is not a business combination. A business combination can only be when it is in a business itself. Otherwise, you're buying an asset of a company. So if these things are happening, in that case, you have to look on whether you're going to use a business combination. Suppose the company is buying the company is thinking that they're buying business combination, but at the business combination, they're buying an asset and they are treating it wrongly as a business combination. So this is a point. This could become the audit risk, right? This could be that, okay, you're overstating your reliability asset and blah, blah, those things, right? This is all what you need to prepare from your context area of AAA. With this, we are done with this standard as well. With this note, I Pramod Pandey would be taking signing off right now. Would like to meet you in the next one. Till then, take care. Have a good time.